awake in a world that tells you, cling to your identity, defend your pride, build your ego and protect it at all costs. You are told that the self, the personality you display, the mask you wear, the sum of your triumphs and traumas, is you. They say, be yourself, but they mean, stay small, stay safe, stay known. So you do what every man does. You build your castle of self, brick by brick, from childhood. You become what's expected of you. You bury your wildness for acceptance, trade your authenticity for approval, and wear your scars as armor to keep the world from ever truly seeing you. But every night, when the noise dies and the masks fall away, something inside you aches. The man in the mirror is only half alive. His eyes are restless, haunted by a truth he cannot name. He feels the pressure to perform, the need to conquer, the desperate urge to prove his worth. He feels strong, but he feels brittle, one blow away from breaking. He is surrounded by noise, but alone in his own skin. The world applauds his persona, but forgets his soul. You sense there's something wrong. You wonder why you always feel empty, why no victory fills the hole in your chest, why every success tastes like ashes the morning after. You begin to suspect that the man you present to the world, the one with the answers, the confidence, the unbreakable mask, is not your true self. But you are afraid. You are afraid that to let go of who you think you are is to die. You are afraid that the loss of your ego means annihilation. And so, like most men, you stay asleep. You choose illusion over awakening. You clutch your little victories, your medals and your stories, and convince yourself this is life. But Carl Jung, the warrior psychologist, saw through this illusion. He knew that true strength begins where your ego ends. He knew that the path of a man is not to build a fortress around the self, but to tear it down and be reborn. Jung spoke of the ego death, a psychological crucifixion, a descent into the darkness within, a sacrifice of the little self, so that the real man, the self, can emerge. He understood that masculinity is not static. It is a journey, an initiation, a death and rebirth, repeated for as long as you draw breath. Society fears this journey. Society needs you tame, predictable, obedient to its narratives. The strong men the world parades are rarely strong. They are rigid, defended, terrified of their own shadows. They bark loudly but live in fear of silence. The culture tells you that change is dangerous, that questioning who you are is a weakness, that a real man is always certain, always controlled, always himself. But Jung would laugh. He knew that clinging to your ego is the ultimate weakness. He knew that real power is born in surrender, not in resistance. Imagine a man walking into the woods alone. He enters the darkness with nothing but his doubts and his fears. There is no applause here, no audience, no one to impress. There is only the long silence of the soul, and in that silence every lie you ever told yourself comes calling. You meet your failures, your betrayals, your secret shames. You meet the father you never measured up to, the boy you abandoned, the rage you buried, the dreams you killed. This is the underworld, the crucible. This is where men either break or are reborn. Jung called this the night sea journey, the descent into the unknown, where you must face your shadow, the parts of yourself you deny, repress, or hate. This is not self-help. This is not affirmation. This is psychological war. You will lose everything you thought you were. You will face the death of your ego, the constructed self that kept you alive, but never let you live. Every wound you've avoided, every truth you've denied, every weakness you've hidden becomes your teacher, your adversary, your judge. Most men turn back. Most men numb the pain with distraction, addiction, and bravado. Most men die with their masks on. But the few who refuse to settle for half a life, stay in the fire. They let themselves be stripped, humiliated, shattered. They surrender the illusion of control. They realize that to become a man, you must first be nothing. You must die to who you think you are. You must watch your ego burn, watch your false confidence melt, watch your little kingdom fall to ruins. Only then, in the ashes, do you glimpse something greater, the self, that deep, immortal presence within you that cannot be shaken, cannot be shamed, cannot be broken. Jung taught that this rebirth is not an event. It is a process, a spiral, a series of deaths and awakenings. Every time you outgrow your old self, every time you face a new fear, every time you refuse to settle, you step closer to your real power. The ego clings, but the self lets go. The ego boasts, but the self is silent. The ego competes, but the self creates. The ego needs to win. The self needs only to be. This is the journey from boyhood to manhood, from insecurity to mastery, from reaction to creation. The world does not want awakened men. The world wants soldiers, not kings. It wants you sedated, distracted, arguing over crumbs, chasing status and comfort, fighting for things that do not matter. The world wants men to remain boys, easily triggered, easily pleased, easily owned. Because the man who dies to himself and is reborn cannot be manipulated. He cannot be seduced by the superficial. He cannot be enslaved by his own wounds. He sees through every lie, every mask, every attempt to shame him back into the herd. He walks with gravity, with silence, with a fire that comes from the depths. This is not a comfortable path. Ego death is agony. It is the loneliness of the long night, the terror of the unknown, the grief of letting go. It is the humility to admit you are not who you thought you were. It is the courage to watch your reputation, your friendships, your comforts, even your dreams burn away. You will lose people. You will lose approval. You will lose every excuse that kept you safe. But what you gain is worth everything. The indestructible strength of the man who knows himself. Jung knew that men who cling to their egos grow old before their time. They become rigid, bitter, obsessed with control. They collect possessions, titles, and lovers, but never know peace. They are always looking over their shoulder, haunted by the fear that one day their mask will slip. They become tyrants, addicts, cowards, slaves to the very ego they worship. But the man who faces the death of his ego, who surrenders his pride and opens to his own darkness, becomes free. He becomes a king in his own right, not because he rules others, but because he rules himself. What does this look like in the world of men? It looks like letting go of needing to be right. It looks like facing your failures without excuse or blame. It looks like walking away from comfort to chase what calls you, even if it means standing alone. It looks like forgiving your enemies, forgiving your parents, forgiving yourself, not from weakness, but from the power that comes from knowing you are more than any story, any mistake, any mask. It looks like saying I don't know without shame, loving fiercely without fear of loss, creating without craving applause. Jung's path is not about perfection. It is about wholeness. It is about integrating every part of you, the noble and the shameful, the light and the dark, the rage and the tenderness. It is about becoming so honest that nothing can touch you, so empty that you can be filled, so humble that you become unstoppable. The man who dies to himself is reborn with a power the world cannot understand. A power that does not depend on status or wealth or approval or even victory. It is the power of a man who knows who he is and what he stands for. Most men never get there. Most men die in the prison of their own ego, imprisoned by what others think, enslaved by their own pride, suffocating in a life that is too small for their spirit. But if you want to live, if you want to love, if you want to create, if you want to lead, truly lead, you must let yourself be shattered. You must let go of every false certainty, every comforting story, every shield you built to survive your childhood. The world will call you crazy. It will say you are selfish, reckless, arrogant for leaving behind the herd. It will tempt you back into safety with promises of comfort, pleasure, validation. You must resist. You must remember that nothing of value is found in the old self. Every real gift, love, wisdom, courage, power, lies on the other side of death. You cannot think your way through this. You cannot read enough books, say enough affirmations, lift enough weights, sleep with enough women to fill the hole in your soul. You must enter the fire. You must choose to let yourself be undone. You must trust that in the darkness there is a deeper light, that beneath the ashes of your ego a real man waits, hungry to rise. This is what Jung called individuation, the path of becoming whole, the path of becoming a true individual. It is not isolation. It is not narcissism. It is not rebellion for its own sake. It is the relentless pursuit of your own truth, the willingness to face your own demons, the refusal to be defined by anyone else's story. It is standing in the world naked and unashamed, offering your gifts without fear, living from a center that cannot be shaken. This transformation is messy. It destroys relationships built on lies. It ruins careers built on pretense. It strips away identities built on trauma. You will lose what is false, but gain what is real. You will lose comfort, but gain strength. You will lose followers, but gain freedom. You will lose the small world of the ego, but gain the infinite world of the self. The man who has died to himself no longer needs validation. He no longer chases applause. He no longer fears rejection. He can walk into any room and belong, not because he fits in, but because he carries his home within him. He can love without needing to possess. He can serve without needing to be thanked. He can fight without needing to win. He can face death with a smile because he has already died 1,000 times and knows there is nothing left to fear. Ego death is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the door you have always feared, the gate every man must pass through to reach greatness. It is the fire that forges kings, the ocean that baptizes warriors, the silence that teaches leaders. Jung knew that every myth, every legend, every rite of passage is a story of death and rebirth. The boy must die for the man to live. The king must die for the kingdom to rise. You cannot fake this journey. You cannot buy it. You cannot skip steps. The only way out is through. The only way up is down. The only way to become whole is to break open, surrender, and let life shape you in the fire of experience. No mentor, no woman, no brother can do this for you. Only you can choose to let yourself be undone. If you have felt the hunger for more, if you are tired of living half a life, if you are ready to face your own darkness, know that you are not alone. There is a brotherhood of men who have walked this path, who have faced their shadows and returned with gifts for the world. There are mentors, guides, and friends who will not judge your struggle, who will not shame your pain, who will walk with you into the night and back again. You will know them by their silence, by their presence, by the way they move through the world. They do not brag, they do not posture, they do not explain. They simply are. They are the men who stand calm in chaos, who forgive without forgetting, who love without fear. They are the men who have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, nothing to hide. If you want to join them, start now. Stop defending your ego. Stop running from your pain. Stop chasing applause. Begin the work. Face the fire. Let yourself die again and again until there is nothing left but the core, the self, indestructible and alive. The world does not need more men who are good at pretending. It does not need more men who are slaves to their egos. It needs men who are willing to die to themselves and be reborn as warriors, as kings, as creators. It needs men who have faced the darkness and returned with light. This is your invitation. This is your challenge. This is the path that few will walk, but every man must take if he wants to truly live. If you feel the truth of these words, if you sense the fire in your chest, if you are tired of playing small, then I invite you to stay connected here. Subscribe if you are ready for more. Not comfort, but challenge. Not approval, but truth. Share your story, your struggle, your commitment to becoming whole. This is not for the crowd. This is for the few who are ready to die, so they can finally be reborn. This is how men are made. The strongest men are those who have died to themselves and risen with a new soul.